always seen things so clearly. How can you not see this now?
Did you think that he was capable of committing such mayhem?
You need to stay away from my wife.
Your daughter is hiding something.
Many law-abiding, high-functioning people have the capacity to snap.
You think you can handle everything? This is bigger than you.
Exactly how weak do you think I am?
Welcome everyone, I'm Louise Rowe and I'm here with psychologist Dr. Julie Smith, and we are here to get into it about the fantastic new series, The Undoing. The cast is incredible: Hugh Grant, Nicole Kidman, Donald Sutherland, and it is one of the juiciest killer shows, excuse the pun. We've only seen episodes 1 to 4, so if you're not watching yet, get into it quickly. And we are going to talk today, Julie, welcome, about lies and secrets, because the crux of the show really is about not only lies and secrets, but the impact that has on the world around you and the person who's holding on to those themselves. There's a murder, grisly murder, right off the bat. Should we start talking about Nicole Kidman's character, Grace? So we're introduced to this very happy family, wealthy family in New York. It's very glitzy and glam. Got to say I love the fashion, on the side note. And she is a therapist, so her job essentially is to keep secrets for other people, which is quite ironic because as the story unfolds, she becomes the victim of secrets. Can you talk about that a bit?
Absolutely. So, I mean, she's a good example, isn't she, of how secrets can be a positive thing. That when people go to therapy, in order to be able to sort of heal, then they need to be able to do that in private. So, you know, keeping those secrets and keeping that confidentiality for her clients is a really good thing. And that's a good sign of how secrets can be a pretty positive and socially appropriate thing.
What is the psychology of secret keeping?
Well, I think researchers tend to distinguish between something called benign secrets or malignant secrets. So often there are darker secrets that are more harmful and more light-hearted or safer secrets that don't do anybody any harm and actually are probably necessary for society to function. You know, if we all went about telling everybody everything, then society would probably quickly fall apart. So a
fib, like, I've hidden my husband's birthday cake.
Exactly. So, you know,
no big deal.
You could spin a web of lies, or arranging a surprise birthday party or a proposal or something like that, which is based around showing someone love and affection, and, you know, it's an expression of love and wanting to connect with somebody else as well. Whereas, you know, perhaps other secrets are more damaging, and maybe other secrets are motivated by things like fear of the consequences. So, you know, in a murder mystery, maybe the fear is going to prison.
Her husband, played by Hugh Grant, Jonathan, quickly becomes #1 suspect in a murder inquiry. He lies about going to the medical conference, but first we don't know where he is. He hasn't been at his job for 3 months, and we find that out when Grace goes to the hospital and literally grabs another doctor who knows him, and he's very tight-lipped. You know, he's obviously been made to sign something that says I can't talk about it, but he hasn't been at work for a long time. Then later, he opens up a bit more and says what a manipulative character Jonathan is.
The people becoming obsessed with him, he fed off that. His patients loved him, the parents, of course, the parents worshipped him. He was saving their children. He thrived on being the center of intense emotion in a very narcissistic and unhealthy way.
Sure, well, certainly as the secrets start to be revealed through the episodes, none of them appear to be positive secrets in the way that Grace keeps positive secrets for her clients. You know, they seem that bit more sinister from the moment you realise he's not where he should be or where he told her he was going to be. 3 months is a long time when you're married to someone to not know that they have a job. And certainly, I think it's the opening scene, isn't it, where you see him walk his son to school and he's all kind of dressed up as if he's going off to work, and you really believe that at the beginning, so then you almost feel a bit duped yourself.
So how many of us lie? Are there any statistics?
Well, I found a study actually that surveyed people about how much they lie, and 95% of people admitted to lying at least once that week.
Wow.
And that's what people admitted to, right? So lying is part of being human, and it's what we all do in hopefully a small way to make society function and get through.
We know Hugh Grant for his fab rom-com, and I just love, and for guys, if you haven't seen it yet, seeing him in this slippery character is just brilliant. I think an actor that you're used to seeing in a very different way. Is manipulation and control a huge part of what secrets are about?
It can be for certain people, and it certainly seems to be for his character, doesn't it? He's a very, like you say, he's very charming. He comes across as, you would have no reason to not believe him, that he seems to get on well with everybody, has very good social skills, and so he seems to be in this, at the beginning, very sort of loving, good relationship, and so Grace would have no reason to doubt him at any point. But that's a good sign of a good manipulator and someone who is able to keep secrets really well. And if he is keeping any more secrets, then he's doing it pretty well, isn't he? Because you know, in that first scene, you just wouldn't have dreamed that he would be keeping these sorts of secrets. So as it unravels, you feel like you take a layer off and you get to know a little bit more about the character. And I agree with you. It's the first time that I've seen Hugh Grant play such a dark character, and it's really exciting for the next episode.
What are some of the big motives behind keeping a secret?
Sure, so there's a few different motives around keeping secrets. Sometimes they'll be about the fear of the consequences, so going to prison, for example. Sometimes it's around fear of losing loved ones, so fear of abandonment or rejection. At other times it might be about protecting other people as well, so you might keep a secret to look after other people. Sometimes it's about avoidance of humiliation too, so you might have a wider circle of friends or acquaintances that you want to keep up your reputation with. You know, you might have a sense of identity that you want to hold on to that secret might not be consistent with.
When you start a secret, can it just, presumably it just expands and expands. It's like a web of lies, hence the phrase, right? And you end up having to lead different areas of your life or all become lies rather than this one thing that you thought might be simple to keep.
Absolutely, and certainly when there's a big sort of web of lies or secrets, people can often think, well, how do you even get to that point? And I think these things rarely start as one big idea. It's one small discretion or secret that someone justifies to themselves in their mind, and then that leads to another one, and that leads to another one. It's like a sort of staircase that you gradually work up to, and then suddenly you've got this whole world of secrets and lies that you have to keep up with.
My social media followers have been as into this show as I have, so I love watching it with them DMing and going back and forth, who done it, and I did actually reach out to them and ask them to share some of their secrets with me so that we could discuss the psychology behind some of them. So, on that note about Jonathan and his reputation, one of the most interesting messages I got was lying about achievements that I graduated from university 2 years later than I said to my family.
They can be shame-based, you know, that if for whatever reason somebody hasn't managed to achieve something that they perceive is really important to their family, for example, then that can be really, really difficult, and that can be a fear of humiliation or shame or rejection from people, and depending on what you perceive as important to the people around you, that can be, you know, a big motivation for keeping secrets, absolutely. And sometimes in certain cultures or situations where it is, you know, a really sort of powerful force on a family, then it could also be about keeping that person safe.
And conversely, do we ever lie and minimise achievements?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think women do that.
Yes, I think that's about fitting in, isn't it? When we want to feel connected with other people, and we all have that strong urge to fit in with whatever community we're surrounded in, because it's a genuine psychological threat if we fear being abandoned or rejected from that social group. So we do what we can to feel connected to the people around us. So if that means playing it small, then I think people do that a lot.
other message, actually lots of messages, on the theme of cheating, very prevalent to the show itself. My partner had cheated and kept it quiet for 4 years.
It's this theme of time, isn't it? That, you know, if someone sort of arrived home the very next day and said, oh, this awful thing happened and I'm so sorry, that feels very different to several years later, doesn't it? And, you know, I think that certainly keeping a secret for a long time and keeping a lie going feels significant for people, doesn't it?
It's got to be exhausting. 4 years of cheating. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, 4 years of keeping a secret. You know, some people really struggle to keep it in, don't they?
It's probably worse, emotionally, to keep it sometimes than the outcome of letting it.
Yeah, and that's when those secrets build up, don't they? You have to create another lie to keep that secret, and then another lie, and they can sort of just layer on top of each other and create a world that would be very stressful, wouldn't it?
Physiologically, do your cortisol levels rise? Are you more stressed? Does your blood pressure rise? What happens when you lie like that?
Absolutely. For a lot of us, there's real changes in sort of blood pressure and things like that. You're in fight or flight mode. You're not feeling safe to be completely open and honest, and so you're holding this lie in, and you know, most people would show some degree of sort of stress response, and equally then a lot of people can feel a cathartic sense of when they reveal a secret. A lot of people get some real benefits from that, in that they feel better. You know, people talk about this, I have the weight lift off my shoulders type feeling, and there are, you know, in the research there's lots of sort of real significant health benefits to telling your story, and I guess that's partly why therapy can be so helpful for people.
What are some of those health benefits?
Certainly your stress can go down, and you can kind of, there's lots of sort of, your immune system improves as well, so which changes the trajectory of sort of illness over years afterwards. So it certainly has a lot of physical health benefits, but psychologically as well, you can feel more connected to someone once you reveal that secret. And certainly we see, don't we, where Grace's friend tells her that Jonathan came to her asking for help. And that appears to be a bid for connection or reconnection, to say, I'm very sorry that I kept this secret from you, now I'm here for you, that you're in need. So, you know, often revealing a secret can improve a relationship, doesn't it, about each person.
Do people ever share a secret with one specific person more to unload their burden, and to sort of give it to someone else, rather than because they're doing the right thing?
Absolutely, and that's with the question mark with Sylvia, is has she done this because everything's blown up and she knows it's going to come out? Is she sort of saving herself and getting it in there before Grace finds out through someone else? Or is she genuinely trying to be a good friend now? And you never really know. It's more question marks, isn't it? That's what makes it so brilliant.
Another great one from a follower on this note of just bursting at the seams. I have caused our family to go into debt. Nobody knows, and the stress of keeping this secret is overwhelming me. What do you do?
Sometimes revealing secrets can be genuinely risky for someone. You know, they might risk losing their family or their partner or their children or, you know, their parents. And so, you know, every individual has to make their own decisions based on what's most important to them and their values. And so if someone has a burning secret but they just can't reveal that to the people around them, then, you know, doing that in a safe space, like, for example, counselling or therapy, or one friend that you absolutely trust, where you get that chance to just talk it through and process it. Or writing down is really good as well. There's lots of research to show that expressive writing is actually really therapeutic and helpful for people to process difficult experiences.
So those secrets were sent in online, and because I asked, I suppose people just immediately revealed. But is there the right time, the perfect time to reveal a secret? As we see in episode 4, Jonathan on live TV decides to share a huge secret that he was in fact in love with Eleanor.
We know that she was killed shortly after I left.
But the police say that the evidence points only and unequivocally to you.
And that's a brilliant scene, isn't it? Because he appears to show lots of emotion, and that suggests that maybe this is an innocent man falling apart at the seams and revealing that this was a good relationship that he had with this lady, and on the other hand, it shows total disregard for Grace and her experience of the whole thing,
and her son who's watching.
I think if you're sharing a secret as a way of repairing a relationship, then the sooner the better, I think. You know, when we were talking earlier about if a secret is kept for 5 or 10 years, or if it's someone coming the very next day and saying, I'm really sorry, I've made this mistake, those two feel very different, don't they? And so if you're trying to repair a relationship, it sounds as though sooner would be better, but every situation is different, so everyone has to make their own decisions.
And is honesty always the best policy?
No, absolutely not.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not revealing anything. But I think society would fall apart, wouldn't it, if we told everybody everything. And it's okay to have an inner world that's private and that's just our own. And sometimes people have to earn the privilege of hearing the story. I think a lot of the reasons people come to therapy, and a lot of people say, I've never told anyone this, and then they feel this huge kind of catharsis and release of having told their story, but they couldn't share that with people that they know for various reasons.
So for Grace, there were no warning signs that her life was about to unravel, but I can't help but think there must have been some red flags along the way. What are the signs, the key signs that someone's lying to you?
Sort of red flags around dishonesty include, strangely, itching the nose. So when someone is lying, they have a change in blood pressure, and that can cause tingling in the sort of fingers and the end of the nose. So quite a sort of classic one is if someone starts to rub their nose and when they're answering a question, that sort of thing. A big pause where it doesn't make sense too. So I could ask you, what did you have for dinner last Tuesday? And you might pause, and that would make sense because that's difficult to think of. But if I asked you, did you rob a bank last Tuesday? You should know really whether you did that or not. So yeah, depending on the question, and again, these red flags are all in response to interrogation, so in response to an immediate question. Avoiding answering the question is a big one. So if somebody talks, off for 10 minutes, but doesn't really answer the specific question, sort of politician style, then that's a big red flag as well. And sort of automatic movements. So things like words we can rehearse, and that's not really a good indicator, but if somebody always sort of shifts from one leg to another, or moves their watch or touches up their hair when they're nervous, then those signs of stress, when they're in clusters in response to a question, can be good indicators. And also aggression towards the questioner. So, if someone immediately in response to a question jumps down your throat and says, you always blame me, you always think of me, those sorts of things, then that's a bit sort of, hang on a minute, this is causing someone real stress, and what's going on here? So there's a few red flags, but again, it's all about clusters and rather than one thing being the silver bullet. Grace had no reason to suspect her husband. She thought she was in a loving relationship, and actually not searching for dishonesty is a good thing to do in a healthy relationship. If we start to search for someone's lies or secrets, then we can start to get ourselves so anxious that there's a secret to be found that we start to see patterns where there aren't any too.
They do say you go looking for trouble, you'll find it.
Absolutely, and if you look for dishonesty in someone, you'll find it, because inevitably everybody's a human being. But if you look for the best in someone, you'll also find that. So obviously this situation with Jonathan and Grace is very rare, and so in that sense you can continue to have a good loving relationship with someone if you look for the best in them. But when we start to look for somebody's imperfections and any dark secrets, and we start to convince ourselves that is really happening, then we could piece bits together that we think are evidence of that, and we're actually sort of creating that rather than kind of sitting back and looking at the thing as a whole.
Thank you so much, Dr. Julie, for joining us. This has been absolutely eye-opening. I got one more quick fire round question. Who did it?
Oh, it's so hard to tell, isn't it? I'm still questioning the father, Franklin.
Me too.
Yes, he's still.
I just think
not sure
Jonathan probably, but maybe not, because is that too obvious?
could be any of them.
We could literally go on for days, guys. I hope this has been insightful and interesting for you. I'm certainly going to be watching the next episode, episode 5, on the edge of my seat. Check it out on Sky Atlantic, and don't forget to catch up if you haven't seen them already.
I think we're gonna win. Do you?
The jurors will be studying you for signs. If you two don't feel it, neither will the jury. Are you devoted, Grace?
Why were you there that night, outside her apartment?
What are you asking me?